Hey guys, welcome back to Fantasy Tipped. My name is Julian and this video is a buy low and sell high video. Basically guys, this video is for making trades. If you need to make trades, if you want to upgrade some of your guys, well, try to sell guys that I have listed in the sell high column and try to buy some of the guys that I'm listing in the buy low column, because those guys are bound to do better, whereas the sell high guys are bound to do a little bit worse in the future. Before we get started guys, please leave a like, subscribe, hit that notification bell, and follow me on Twitter at FantasyTipped. I'm constantly putting out tweets to help you win your fantasy week every single week. Let's jump right into the content now, and let's start with some guys to sell high on. Now guys, I released one of these videos a couple weeks back, and I didn't want to repeat the same guys as I did a couple weeks back, but a lot of those guys are definitely still relevant for selling high and buying low. You can find that video link right up there. Now, the first guy though is someone that I am repeating because he's a must sell guy. He's someone that absolutely has to be sold right now, and that is Nazem Kadri. The dude has 30 points through 20 games, which is absolutely insane. He's still 4th in the league in points, which is just, it's just crazy to think that Nazem Kadri is 4th in the league in points after 20 games, right? His shooting percentage is 14.1. His on-ice shooting percentage is 16.7. So he's definitely getting pretty lucky. And guys, his career high in points is 61 points. This guy's on pace for like 120. So it's just not going to be sustainable, and unfortunately he's going to slow down. Will he be terrible the rest of the year? Absolutely not, but he will slow down, and that's why you should sell him now, because he's worth a crazy amount right now on the market. If you can get a guy like an Elias Pettersson who just got a new coach in Vancouver, I would absolutely do that. My next sell high candidate is Timo Meier of the San Jose Sharks, and he's also off to an amazing start with 26 points through 20 games, and he's been shooting an insane amount, 4.6 shots on average per game. So no matter what happens, his floor will always be super safe just because he does shoot a lot. So if you don't want to sell him high, you don't necessarily have to if you're keeping him just for his floor. That's fine. But I think you might be able to get a pretty special player, like maybe even a Mark Scheifele for a guy like Timo Meier, because he's a top 20 fantasy player right now in most leagues. His career high points was 66 points in 78. At this pace, he'll finish this season with 94 points in only 74 games because he missed 8 games. So I don't necessarily see that happening considering his career high was 66 points. His shooting percentage is 12.9 right now. His average is just a couple percentage lower if you remove last year, but definitely still a little bit high. And his on-ice shooting percentage is 13.7, whereas his average, just like most people's average, is just about 10. So obviously he is getting a little bit lucky. By no means is he going to be bad the rest of the year, but I think you might be able to get an extra special player for Timo Meier right now. He's bound to slow down a little bit. Number 3 on my list is Troy Terry, and hopefully you're not too late to sell this guy a high. He's still doing pretty decently, so you might still be able to get some good value for this guy. He's got 25 points through 24 games so far this season, which is not bad at all, and he's been scoring a lot of goals, has 15 on this season. His shooting percentage right now is 27.8, which is just unfathomably high. It's super high. His career average is 13.4, which is less than half of what he's currently shooting at. So he should only have like 7 goals right now, but he has 15. So he definitely has a lot more goals than he expected to have, whereas his on-ice shooting percentage is 13.4, so he's getting lucky in general as well. Now, the reason I said earlier that you have to sell this guy now is because the situation he's in. Ryan Getzlaf is now week to week with an injury, and Adam Henrique, his other line mate, is also injured right now. So instead of being on a line with those two guys who we had some great chemistry with, he's now on a line with Lettieri and Sam Steele. Now, those aren't terrible players, but those aren't Ryan Getzlaf and Adam Henrique. They're not quite as good. So Troy Terry, unfortunately, is probably going to slow down a lot starting now. So if you can sell Troy Terry now, I would absolutely do so. Next is Bowen Byram of the Colorado Avalanche, and due to a couple of injuries, he hasn't really played a whole lot lately On the season, though, he has 9 points in 13 games, which is really great. None of those points were on the power play either, so he's been able to produce without the power play. His shooting percentage, though, is 15.4%, which is absolutely insane for a defenseman. Defensemen aren't supposed to have high shooting percentages. Yet this guy has scored 4 goals on only 26 shots, which is just crazy, okay? This is not going to continue. He's not going to continue scoring goals at this pace. The assists, it's possible that he keeps that kind of thing up. But he shouldn't have more than 1 goal right now, realistically. Bowen Byram, because of the depth of defensemen in Colorado, doesn't get any power play time. Makar gets top power play, and Girard and Taves get second power play. The only time Byram sees power play time is when one of those 3 guys are out of the lineup. So because of this, I'm not super high on Bowen Byram. I like when my defensemen are getting at least power play 2 time, whereas Bowen Byram doesn't see that. I think he'll still be able to put up a few points here and there. If he were to play a whole season without missing any, obviously he missed time, but that would be a 57-point season for a defenseman. There's no way that he's going to come close to that kind of point per game pace. It doesn't make any sense. So Bowen Byram, if you can sell him to someone who thinks he's going to do that well, and you can get a good return because of that, go ahead and do so. My last sell high is Tristan Jarry. And I only have him here because I've heard him talked about quite a bit as a sell high candidate. Personally, I've always loved Tristan Jarry. I think he's a great goalie and he gets no credit for how good he is. Everyone seems to think he's just an average goalie and everyone is saying, oh, it's just a hot stretch. Guess what? Like, he's already played 20 games this season and has no sign of slowing down at all. Obviously, I don't think he stays as insane as he has been the entire year, but I still think he stays pretty good for the entire season. So obviously, if you can sell him at his current value, the value that he's getting shutouts left and right, obviously go ahead and move him. But if you can't move him for a guy like a Robin Lehner or a Connor Hellebuyck, I'm not moving him. That's the only way I'm moving Tristan Jarry right now, if you can get a bona fide good goalie for a good team. Moving on to some buy low candidates right now, and first on the list I have Ryan O'Reilly, who has only 13 points through 20 games, which is pretty low for Ryan O'Reilly's standards. His shooting percentage right now is a little bit low at 9.3. His career is just over 10%. So it's a tad bit low, so that's bound to go up a little bit. He's playing on a line right now with Sundqvist and Saad. Like, can we even blame him for not producing? Yet, actually, in his last 4 games, he's managed 4 points. So even though he's playing with not that great players, he seems to be turning things around. But I think he's seriously missing his partner in crime, David Perron. You guys all know I love David Perron. And when he comes back, I think he'll go back onto Ryan O'Reilly's line, and I think they'll refine that chemistry that they've had for the last few seasons. And I think they're going to do really, really well, the two of them, for the rest of the year. Ryan O'Reilly is someone I'm not scared of buying low at all. Next is Torrey Krug, has only 10 points through 19 games and no points at all in his last 7 games. I've been reading the comments on my videos. People are really fed up with Torrey Krug, and it's crazy. People are considering dropping this guy. He's a power play 1 guy on a pretty good hockey team. He has a super locked in job. Yeah, I know both power plays in St. Louis get a pretty decent amount of time, but Torrey Krug is the guy in St. Louis. He gets that opportunity. I understand that he's not capitalizing right now, but to think of dropping this guy, to me, that's absolutely crazy. You can easily buy low on this guy right now because people are willing to give him up for almost nothing, and he should go back to scoring power play points pretty frequently, and I think he's a really good value right now if you can go out and get him. Next is JT Miller, and he's actually having a really good season with 23 points in 25 games. So overall, he's been great, but over the last 7-game stretch, he's only had 1 really good game. He had a goal and 2 assists that game, but other than that, in all the other games except for 1, he had no points at all. So right now is probably the best time to buy low on JT Miller because I think he's a fantastic player and he's been Vancouver's best player so far this year. There's a lot of rumors that he could be traded to a team like Minnesota or the Rangers. If he does, I like that opportunity, especially if he's going to be playing with Fiala on Minnesota or someone like that. That's a really good opportunity for JT Miller. Even if he's not traded, I like him a lot. Because he's on a little bit of a cold stretch, you might be able to get him at a little bit of a discount. Now, right now, this guy's shooting percentage is 12.5. His career average is actually higher than that at 13.2, and his on-ice shooting percentage right now is only 9.0, and you guys all know that the league average is 10 for on-ice shooting percentage. So it's actually, his stats will go up, and I think he'll be at about a point per game pace for the rest of the season. So he's just below that right now, and I do think he'll be able to maintain just about a point per game pace for the rest of the year. I really like it, and especially with the coaching changes in Vancouver, I think things can only go up from there, and I think their players will all get a little bit of a boost from that. And that's why I really like buying JT Miller right now. And the same thing really goes for other guys who are struggling on the Canucks, right? With the coaching changes, I think that all these guys start, producing once again. Bo Horvat, Brock Besser, Elias Pettersson, Connor Garland. I think these are all guys that are really good buy low candidates. And if you can get them from someone who's fed up with them, really good idea. Number 4 is Blake Wheeler. And he has only 12 points through 19 games, 0 goals. Now, he's had a few really good games recently. In his last 4 games, he had a 2-point game, another 2-point game, and a 3-point game. Obviously, all those were assists because he doesn't have a goal yet, so it could almost be too late to buy low on this guy. If you take out those 3 games, though, the dude only has 5 points on the entire season. So people might be like seeing that he's producing finally and be in a rush to sell him almost. Like, oh my God, he's producing. Let me sell him now before he goes back to being crappy. But guess what? Blake Wheeler is not crappy. He's a good player. He plays on a great line with Scheifele, and he gets a lot of power play time in Winnipeg. So this is just the beginning of what's to come. He has 4.3 goals below expected right now because he has no goals. So he could have 4 or 5 goals right now, and he'd be doing a lot better, and people would not be complaining so much. His career average shooting percentage is 10.4. He's currently at 0 because he has no goals. And his on-ice shooting percentage right now is 8.0, which is pretty low. That should level out as well. So Blake Wheeler should definitely turn it around from here and keep going at the pace, not necessarily as high as he's been doing with 2, 2, and 3 points, but he should definitely be getting almost a point per game from here on out. Next is another Winnipeg Jet who's playing right now on a line with Dubois and Ehlers, and that's definitely not a bad place to be. He's managed 20 points in 24 games this season, and he went on a little bit of a cold streak, and he has started to right the ship a little bit. So try to get him sooner rather than later. You might be able to get this guy as an add-on in a trade, not even like the main target in a trade, because a lot of people really undervalue Andrew Copp because he's not a brand name player at all. So people might be like, oh yeah, just take Andrew Copp along with him. It might just be an add-on, and that might be the most amazing add-on you could possibly get to a trade. So try to see if whoever owns him undervalues him and try to get him. Next is Kevin Fiala, and I was going to make him my Manscaped must-buy player of the video, but I've already done that a few weeks back because Fiala is a second-half player. He never starts off the season that strongly, and right now they're doing him a huge disservice. Right now he's on a crappy line with Rem Pitlick and Victor Rask, guys who are not even remotely the same caliber as Kevin Fiala. Hopefully they can trade for JT Miller and get him a better centerman for whatever line he ends up being on in the future. But they're doing him a big disservice. Like I said, he wasn't even on the top power play last game, so I don't know how they expect this guy to turn around and start producing some more. Right now, he's 5.5 goals below expected, which is the worst in the NHL. His shooting percentage is only 3.6%. So that's going to go up, especially in the second half of the season. You guys all know that Fiala, every single year, he always turns it on in the second half. His on-ice shooting percentage is 8.1%, so that's also a little bit low. He's been getting a little bit unlucky. So Fiala is someone that I'm definitely targeting for the second half of the season because we know that he will turn on the Jets and will start producing. Next is Vincent Trocheck at number 7, and so far, he's had a decent season, 16 points through 23 games, which is not too bad, but it's not too great either. Trocheck has this tendency of scoring a lot of his points in a single game and then going quiet for a few games and going out again and scoring another 3 points or so and then going quiet again. So he's not the most consistent guy in the world, but where he does have consistency, where he does have a lot of value is that he hits a nice amount. So he shoots, he hits. He's a guy with a relatively safe floor. He's a guy who you do want in hits-based points league because he always leaves you with a decent floor. Right now, his shooting percentage is a little bit higher than his career 10, and his on-ice shooting percentage is also a little bit high. But he's a guy I'm buying for floor. He has a safe floor. Why? Well, he plays on a power play with Aho, with Teravainen, with Svechnikov, with D'Angelo. It's a good power play, and he's also got a pretty decent line with Seth Jarvis and Martin Necas. So Trocheck is someone I'm going out and seeing what people want for him because before that 3-game performance recently, he hadn't done anything in a long time, so you might be able to get him really, really cheap. So go ahead and see if you can. Next is my Manscaped must-buy player of the video, Ilya Sorokin. Get 20% off and free shipping with the code word FANTASYTIPPED at manscaped.com. That's 20% off and free shipping at manscaped.com with the code word FANTASYTIPPED. Unlock your confidence, guys, and always use the right tools for the job with Manscaped. Guys, the holiday season is coming up really, really soon. So go ahead, go to manscaped.com, use my code word FANTASYTIPPED. You'll get 20% off, you'll get free shipping, and you'll get your holiday shopping done now. Now, Sorokin is someone that people are seriously undervaluing. It seems funny to list him as a buy low because he's been so good this season. It's just the Islanders' offense has really let him down, right? Look at that save percentage and the goals against average. It's not bad at all. It's just he only has 5 wins through 15 games. The Islanders, though, have also played less games than any other team in the NHL, so that could turn around quickly, and I think the Islanders will find their offensive touch again. They obviously don't have the best offense in the world, but they've managed to reach the Stanley Cup semifinals 2 years in a row. Obviously, they have a good team, and I think they will turn it around. So if you can get Sorokin at a discount right now, he's someone that I would go after. He's the guy who seems to be the #1 guy in New York right now because Varlamov has not been great this year. Next is Jonathan Toews, and I might take a little bit of hate for this one, but honestly, it's Jonathan Toews. He's a good player. He has only 9 assists through 24 games and no goals. His shooting percentage is obviously 0. His career shooting percentage is 13.6. He's 3.4 goals below expected. His on-ice shooting percentage is 7.0. He's been getting unlucky. Obviously, he hasn't been playing as well as he has in past seasons. The dude took an entire year off last year due to some issues that he had. So he's obviously wasn't expected to be as great as he was a couple years ago, but I think he can still be that player. Obviously, I'm not giving up a lot for Jonathan Toews. He's probably available on your waiver wire, on your free agency in the majority of leagues. The reason I have him here now is because he was just recently elevated to the top line with Hagel and Patrick Kane. If he's going to turn it around, it's now. Now that he's on a line with Patrick Kane and the top power play with Patrick Kane, this is his opportunity to show that he can still be the player that we know that he can be. He's only 33 years old, so it's not like he's too old to be a great player. This is the time, though. If he can't show that he can be a great player playing with a guy as elite as Patrick Kane, unfortunately, Toews is someone that we're going to have to move on from. But this is the opportunity. So if you can go out and grab Toews from someone for basically nothing, go ahead and do that. Also, Chicago has a really, really nice schedule next week. They play on 3 off nights, and there's basically no teams that play on any of the off nights next week. So Chicago is a team you want to be targeting, and Jonathan Toews might make for a really good trade acquisition if you're giving up really little, or someone to scoop up off the waiver wire and see how he does playing with Patrick Kane. And last but not least, we got Mika Zibanejad. Through 23 games, he has 18 points, which is nothing to scoff at, but has not been the best so far this season, right? By no means has he been bad. But right now, in a lot of fantasy leagues, he's ranked below guys like Cirelli, Evan Rodriguez. So he could definitely do better because by no means are those guys better than Mika Zibanejad. He's a second half player, much like Kevin Fiala. He's someone who really turns it on in the second half of the season. So if you're able to get Zibanejad for the second half of the season, he's someone that you should really go after. And I can prove it to you that he's going to turn it on a little bit based on his shooting percentage. Right now, his shooting percentage is only 7%. His career average is 14. So his goals should basically be about double right now if he's playing at his best. And I think that he's going to be able to do that once again this year, have a really, really high shooting percentage, and that's going to start coming soon. For example, I'd trade Timo Meier in a heartbeat for Mika Zibanejad, even though he's ranked significantly higher than Zibanejad in a lot of leagues. And that's it, guys. Thank you so much for watching all the way through. Please leave a like, subscribe, hit that notification bell. Hope you guys enjoyed the content today, and I'll catch you in the next episode of Fantasy Tipped.